Hello everyone, this is Alexa Groft, and today I'm going to be explaining to you my Science Learning Center. And my Science Learning Center is called It's Raining, It's Pouring, Precipitation is Forming. And this is a kindergarten Science Learning Center, and it is also for weather, rain cloud in a jar. And this experiment here, I will have a video linked in D2L so that you can see how the experiment actually works. So again, I just have the title again, the grade level kindergarten, the PA state standards, and the NGSS standards listed. For the objectives, students will be able to understand the process of rain. They will be able to analyze the cloud's role in rain, and they will form a hypothesis on what will happen during the rain cloud in a jar experiment. And they will record their observations on what happened during the rain cloud in a jar experiment as well. For essential questions, what is a rain cloud and what makes it rain? In this learning center, the anticipatory set and the technology integration go hand in hand. As a class, we will have a discussion about what makes a good scientist, and we will talk about how we can be safe in our lab. We will use our discussion to make a what is a good scientist anchor chart, and at the bottom of this page, I will show you the example of that anchor chart. And for my technology integration, I have that students will watch the YouTube video called What is Rain? And that's basically a YouTube video that will give them the background knowledge and help show them what rain is, as well as the process of rain in order to prepare them to complete the experiment. For the rain cloud in the jar, the materials are, of course, a jar, 4 cups of water, and that is an approximation because you just want to at least have the jar 75% filled with the water. Shaving cream, blue food coloring, pipettes or dropettes, and the rain cloud in a jar hypothesis and observations worksheet, which I will show you at the bottom of this document, and I created the worksheet, so I'm going to be explaining that. For safety concerns, students can refer to the What is a Good Scientist anchor chart to remember the safety procedures, and I will have that posted in the front of the classroom during the Learning Center. Only a few students will be coming up and adding the food coloring at a time under the teacher's direction, and the student will have to ask permission to come up and use the pipette or dropette in food coloring, and that's just so the teacher can monitor for the safety concerns. For location, we are saying that it should be in the back of the classroom near the sink. The written portion will also occur at the student's desk. For time, we're saying that the rain cloud in a jar experiment will be 10 to 15 minutes, and completing the hypothesis and observations worksheet will be 10 to 15 minutes as well. Storage, the supplies will be prepared ahead of time in a labeled bin, and the worksheets and help cards will be placed in a labeled bin for the table captains to get for their groups. The space is the same as the location. We're saying that it's going to occur at the back of the sink or back of the classroom near the sink. And the written portion will be at the student's desk again. For groupings, there will be 2 groups. Each group will consist of about 12 students, depending on how many you have that year, so that's an approximation as well. Group 1 will be conducting the rain cloud and jar experiment with the teacher, and Group 2 will be completing the hypothesis and observations worksheet. Management system, the teacher will actively monitor the entire class, and she will facilitate the rain cloud in a jar experiment, and then we will set a timer and let the students know when they should change stations. For instructions, the What is a Good Scientist anchor chart will be posted at the front of the board so that students are reminded about safety, and the teacher will also post instructions on the board for Group 1 and Group 2. Responsibility and roles. Group 1 will be conducting the rain cloud and jar experiment with the teacher, and Group 2 will be completing the hypothesis and observations worksheet. The table captain will get the worksheets and the help cards for each member of their group. The rain cloud and jar will be set up and facilitated by the teacher. So what does a student do if they need help? To effectively monitor the students and assist them when needed, each student will receive help cards that they can hold up for the teacher to assist them. And I will be showing you the help cards at the bottom of this document that I made. Learning alternatives and scaffolding. English language learners can be provided with the Spanish version of the document. Students with special needs will have assistance using the pipette with the food coloring. And gifted learners can investigate other weather topics by researching them in a book and writing about what they learned. Sequence of activities. So as a class, we will have the discussion about what makes a good scientist, and we will be creating the What is a Good Scientist anchor chart. Then they will watch the What is Rain, YouTube video. Group 1 is going to conduct the rain cloud in a jar experiment. Group 2 will be completing the hypothesis and observations worksheets. And I will skip the part where it says rain cloud and jar experiment because I have another video that shows me actually doing that experiment. So you'll get to see that firsthand. But there is the instructions and steps. And after both groups complete the worksheets, students will turn their completed worksheets into the finished bin, and the teacher will then examine their completed work to ensure that they understood the objectives of the experiment. And assessment, that will just say that'll be collected and examined. Now we get to how this lesson follows the 5E model. Engagement. As a class, we're discussing what makes a good scientist and creating the anchor chart, and they're watching the What is a Rain video, and they'll be actively participating in the experiment. So we're using that to gauge their attention. Exploration. They will be conducting the experiment with the teacher, and they'll get a chance to take turns and add food coloring to the cloud during the experiment. They will also be testing their predictions and hypotheses. Explanation. As we conduct the experiment, the teacher will explain to the student that the shaving cream represents the cloud, the water represents the air, and the colored water saturates the cloud. As the cloud gets heavy, it forms the rain. Students will record their hypothesis and observations on the worksheet. Elaboration. As the experiment is conducted, the teacher will ask students, what do you think will happen? What does the shaving cream represent? What does the food coloring represent? Why do you think that this will happen? The teacher will encourage and facilitate a discussion about the experiment, and they will record their hypothesis and observations on the worksheet. Evaluation. The teacher will encourage students to ask questions. The teacher will also thoroughly answer the students' questions that they have. The hypothesis and observations worksheet will be collected to ensure that they understood the concepts that were presented in the lesson plan, as well as the experiment. I have my works cited page right here. So those are the sources that I used to create the center. Furniture arrangement, I have desks where the students will complete their worksheet. And then back here I have that the rain cloud and jar experiment will be conducted here near the sink, and a large desk will be provided. Help cards, I know I mentioned that before. I just created this. It's pretty easy to create, and these will just be cut out around the perimeter and given to students so they can hold them up when they need help. That way it helps with the management and there's not so many students asking you at once, and that way the Learning Center will be effective with time management as well as just allowing students to be helped without creating too much disorganization. What is a good scientist anchor chart? Here's what the anchor chart will look like. This is just an example that I created at home. Students can put the Post-it notes up as the class comes up with the answer. So I had a picture of a girl scientist, and then I had the different colored sticky notes. So I will read those. A good scientist asks questions, thinks about what will happen, cleans up the lab, is safe in the lab, observes and uses materials carefully. So that just serves as a reminder and a reference for students when completing the rain cloud in a jar experiment. And this is pretty cool. It's a rain cloud in a jar worksheet that I created that students will put their name and draw in color. So what I think will happen, they will draw in color in the jar what they think will happen at the first station prior to completing the experiment. And then after they go and complete the experiment, they will do the bottom sheet, which says what I observed, and then they will color that. And then I will collect that just to see what their thoughts were and everything to make sure that they understood the concepts. So I linked the video in D2Well that shows me completing this experiment. And basically, of course, it doesn't look exactly like the picture, but what I did was I created a video that shows how you would potentially do it with students. I also explain the materials. I explain what each component represents, and I also show you how students can be involved in that. And I thought it would have been it's really cool to actually see the experiment, because I think it's one thing for me to show you a picture, and it's a whole nother thing for me to show you how it actually is being conducted. And I think that especially for kindergarten, this form of exploration, doing this, I feel like they'll be so fascinated. I was actually fascinated by it. It's so fun. It is a really fun experiment, and I wish I would have gotten to do it at my placement. I think the students would have loved it. So that is also going to be linked for you to watch. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to your feedback. So thank you, and I hope that you're all doing well.